for the fantasy football season. Here's the top 12 kickers I'm ranking this week. Number 1, Brandon Aubrey of the Dallas Cowboys. So Aubrey, we know he's the most lethal kicker in the league. Many 60-plus yarders he's hit throughout his short career. Now with CeeDee Lamb out of the lineup, this Cowboy team might have trouble scoring touchdowns more often than not. With obviously the best option in the offense out multiple weeks with the high ankle sprain. And also, Dallas has had trouble in the red zone regardless the last couple seasons. And now with Lamb out in a matchup versus the Packers, a bend but don't break defense, I have Aubrey as number 1. Number 2, Cameron Dicker of the Los Angeles Chargers. One of the more accurate kickers of all time is Cameron Dicker. This week, a great matchup at the New York Giants, a defense that's bend but don't break at times, but has a lot of problems in the red zones where kickers had a good season versus them. So this week, I believe the Chargers, they'll go into New York, put up a decent amount of points. And like I said, this Giant team's top 5 and giving up points to kickers on the season. Number 3, Spencer Schrader of the Indianapolis Colts. Maybe week 1, people thought it was a fluke. Then week 2, he went out there, had a big game. And then week 3, went out there and had a big game. So this week, he's up there in my rankings. And number 3 is Spencer Schrader, still out there in over 60% of fantasy leagues. He's got a big boot, very accurate kicker. Last season, he was good in the time he was with the Kansas City Chiefs. And obviously another indoor game for him as well, which is obviously a plus at the Los Angeles Rams. So this could be a high-scoring game. And Schrader, he has that 55-yard range where he could kick it pretty deep. And this week, I think it wouldn't be surprising if he has another double-digit game for the 4th week in a row. Number 4, Chris Boswell of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So last week, he was relegated to only 3 extra points. Was Chris Boswell, where the first 2 weeks of the year, he had double-digit fantasy points. And he's one of the most accurate kickers of all time. At 50-plus yards, he makes it look easy, as well as Chris Boswell. So this week in a matchup versus the Minnesota Vikings in Ireland, where this could be a high-scoring game or a game where they stall out versus Minnesota Viking team, depending what Viking defense shows up in this one. Chris Boswell, regardless, is usually a top kicker with just an off week last week, not getting an opportunity. Number 5, Matt Prater of the Buffalo Bills. So Matt Prater, he's found a home with this Buffalo Bill team. And the first 2 out of 3 weeks, he's had double-digit fantasy points. Last week, he missed a 30-yarder. He still had 8 fantasy points. And this week in a matchup versus the New Orleans Saints, where this Bill team's going to be in the red zone, I believe, early and often. Prater is going to get the opportunities, but we'll see what happens with Prater when Tyler Bass returns. But like I said, anytime you're in a high-powered offense and have a great matchup versus a bad defense, you're going to be a great option weekly. Number 6, Tyler Loop of the Baltimore Ravens. So Tyler Loop, he's got a big boot. Obviously, now the new kicker for this Baltimore Raven team this season, where Justin Tucker was there over a decade. He was a great kicker for them. And this week at Kansas City, it's going to be a matchup where they know they got to put points on the board, because whoever loses this game falls to 1-3. And this is going to be a playoff atmosphere where these two teams have had the battles in the playoffs many times over the last 5 seasons. So this week at Arrowhead, a tough place to play and kick the football. We know Baltimore, after a bad loss on Monday Night Football, they're going to go out there. And I know Kansas City's offense hasn't been great this season. They're still going to have to put points on the board. And Loop, I think, is going to be a big part of it. Number 7, Harrison Butker, staying in the same game of the Kansas City Chiefs. So last week it was a big game for Butker, double-digit fantasy points at the New York Giants. And he makes these 50-plus yarders, a thing that was a problem for him for a couple seasons. Butker make it look easy in a row. He's missed 2 extra points as Harrison Butker. This week versus Baltimore and Arrowhead, playoff atmosphere, big game for both teams, 1-2 on the year. You don't want to fall 1-3. I think Butker goes out there and has a solid performance. Once again, number 8, Brandon McManus of the Green Bay Packers. So this week, a great matchup with the Dallas Cowboys, a defense that can't stop anyone, and teams have been going up and down the field and in field goal range pretty much every drive of the season, no exaggeration, versus Dallas defense. So this offense, not playing great so far in the early going is Green Bay, but I think versus Cowboy defense, they're going to go out there and at minimum be in the red zone a majority of this ball game. Number 9, Jake Bates of the Detroit Lions. So Jake Bates on a high-powered offense. I know field goal opportunities haven't been there much, where it's been a lot of extra points over the last couple of weeks here for Jake Bates. But this week versus a bend but don't break type of Cleveland defense, even though we know this Lion offense takes it level at home, I think Jake Bates, he's going to go out there, get a couple opportunities in this ball game, is Jake Bates. We know he has a big boot, and it's an indoor game as well, which is always a plus. Number 10, Joey Sly of the Tennessee Titans. So Joey Sly, he's got a big boot. So far this season, 3 games in a row to begin with double-digit fantasy points. And we know this Tennessee Titan team, has trouble, obviously, in the red zone scoring the football. And Joey Sly, though, he's kicked some deep ones, 55-plus yards even, to begin the season. So Sly, a veteran in this league. He's got a big boot, obviously, like I said, is Joey Sly. And this Titan team has trouble scoring the football, punching it in the end zone. And this week in an indoor game at Houston, I think he's going to get some opportunities once again from deep. Number 11, Will Lutz of the Denver Broncos. So Lutz, the last couple weeks, the numbers haven't been there. But this week with Cincinnati coming to town, a defense that has trouble stopping teams, that gives up a decent amount of points to kickers on the season. I think Will Lutz, he'll get a few opportunities in this game. This Bronco offense, for the most part, has been pretty decent, I thought, in the first 3 games of the season. I know they've turned the football over a decent amount, and the defense hasn't played up to expectation. But Will Lutz, he's an accurate kicker. He's been a good kicker for many seasons. And this week, back home at Denver, altitude, which can help a kicker as well. I think he goes out there, has a good game. And the 12th and final kicker on rankings, Joshua Carty of the Los Angeles Rams. So last week, tons of opportunities. A big game it was for Joshua Carty, even though field goal got blocked to win the game, and the Philadelphia Eagles blocked it and ran it into the end zone to end it. And this week with Indianapolis coming to town, a bend but don't break type of defense, I think Carty will get a few extra points in this game and a few field goal opportunities. And he's got a big boot, and also as well, it's an indoor game, which always helps. That's the top 12 kickers I'm ranking for week 4 of the fantasy football season.